After driving this vehicle for almost 2 months now, bang for buck, I seriously think this should be your default option when looking for a mid-size SUV. Most cases, most people don't actually need a long-range or performance Model Y. It's more of a want, but more on that later. Put simply, the Model Y rear-wheel drive is just a great benchmark vehicle. So what is that, Adam? Well, in a nutshell, we have a rock-solid LFP battery pack that makes degradation looks like child play. This is a reason why other EV alternatives are also shifting to LFP batteries, and it's because it's the most ideal and consumer-friendly battery type for the average driver. Another reason the Tesla Model Y should be the benchmark for comparison has to be efficiency, and I'll be honest with you, based on my experience so far, even to me, it simply just doesn't make sense. I've successfully completed multiple city driving trips that actually surpass 5 miles per kilowatt hour. A car of this size really shouldn't be doing that. I mean, if you do the numbers against the rated range, your eyes will twinkle with intrigue. Long range driving, honestly, it doesn't match that same efficiency, but I'll discuss the difference in detail later in the video. Then we have the almost never-ending storage space. It's like a real-life TARDIS in car format. Need space in the cabin? We've got deep center console options, hatchback boot as standard with powered flat folding rear seats, and a frunk that is extremely useful and more versatile than you think. This is just a start. There's ample rear space for adults and the comfort is on point. Finally, I can't glance over these factors and not mention the price tag. In the UK, it's £44,490, and there might even be some pre-configured bargains too if you're lucky. But more importantly, combined with the time-limited finance rates across the world right now, that is 0% APR here in the UK and 1.99% in the US, with personal finance being the preferred option for consumers. These low rates then make monthly repayments even more attractive. So value right now is definitely a driving factor for the benchmark claim. So if you like the sound of all of that, but you're thinking, Adam, what you're not saying is this has a range of 283 miles WLTP. That's surely too low, right? Charging it at 170 kilowatts top speed, is that good enough when there's 300 kilowatts plus on alternative cars today? What about the warranty and the battery? Will it blow up? And if you are a first-time Tesla EV owner, these are probably perfectly valid concerns to have at first sight, but maybe not the latter. Anyhow, this video will explain around 12 minutes why you don't need to be concerned about those points, but primarily why I think this Tesla Model Y is head above shoulders above the alternatives for the average driver. So if this video sounds like an interesting insight, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Right, let's get into it. So first up, range and efficiency. If you currently drive a petrol motor, you may have range anxiety fear with EVs. That's completely normal coming from a petrol car. That range hesitation is more than likely down to your current petrol car owning habits. Whilst that just sounds strange to say, what does it even mean? Well, at a more extreme level, the UK's average annual mileage is a measly 5,506 miles per annum. And data from the US Department of Transportation is even higher, around 13,476 miles. Stick with me, if we use that ambitious 13,476 mile figure and you convert that to a weekly figure, you would drive an equivalent of 260 miles a week, at best. Combined with the fact that most people, they have off-road parking at home, so they have access to home charging facilities. Even via your typical home plug socket is incredibly useful for everyone at all times. I mean, these sockets are literally found in every home and every business on the planet pretty much. Between a typical home socket and a home charger and a supercharger, a charging option is never too far away. So if you're coming from a petrol car, here comes the cheat code to EV ownership and why the Tesla Model Y rear-wheel drive should be a benchmark car for you. Your new driving habit with a 2024 Tesla Model Y will be to charge your car when you want from home. It's simple, it's easy, and it's convenient. Every other night, I simply hook it up and any missing range is then replenished to 100% by the morning. This car likes to go to 100%, so there's no messing around with altering how much charge that I want. The rear-wheel drive trim has this staple LFP chemistry, and in plain English that means you have 100% usable range at all times with no worry about degradation. So charging it overnight whilst playing your PS5 overnight or even binging your favourite TV series is like refueling to a full tank of fuel every day effortlessly. Apart from it will cost you as little as £4.50 for a full battery. But you'll rarely do 0 to 100%. It's more like 40 to 100 or 60 to 100, just depending on your usability for that day. So weekly range in this rear-wheel drive Tesla Model Y is more than adequate if we say that 260 miles was that US average, which is incredibly high for us Brits. If we consider the day-to-day running, this thing is a beast doing city driving runs. At present, 4.5 to 5.5 miles a kilowatt hour is absolutely possible for efficiency. Naturally, you will use more power if you're doing 70 miles per hour on the motorway, so that surely is going to be the Achilles heel for this rear-wheel drive Tesla Model Y, right? Well, if you're frequently doing daily round trips of over 250 miles, then the Model Y long range with over 300 miles range and 250 kilowatts will be more fitting as an upgrade for sure. However, this bit is key and often overlooked. If you do not do over 250 miles frequently, the time saved from actually charging at 250 kilowatts or having another 48 WLTP miles at your disposal may not be significant to you. I did a whole dedicated video comparison between the trims and it expands on this very point in full. I'll pop it on the screen if you're interested, but to just give you a snapshot as to why, Leicester to Edinburgh and back is 612 miles as a round trip. And that would mean 5 stops and it would take around an hour and 45 minutes in total. So that's 21 minutes at a stop on average. A long range will actually save you 37 minutes and do 1 less stop. And if you're only doing this trip twice or maybe 3 times a year, that extra circa £120 per month in cost may not actually be worth it for you. Heck, you could be better spending that on a few Tesla upgrades or accessories. Therefore, tying the point that I made before about this car being the most suitable car for the average driver, you will do 95% of your charging from home anyway. That remaining 5% will probably be using the supercharger. Even at 170 kilowatts, 10 to 80% charging will take on average 27 minutes to recharge. So that's well over 3 hours worth of driving. And that's not even considering if you have the bonus of actually charging at your destination. I previously got to 100% charge using the standard 3-pin charging socket at a hotel, and that was free of charge. And that just helped me avoid the supercharger stop. And this is nothing fancy, it's just a typical plug socket. Therefore, focusing here on that road trip range and supercharging, range anxiety is far less of an issue than it is in real time. The fact of the matter is average day-to-day needs can be covered by home charging, and even if you are doing up to 13,000 miles a year, which is 2.5 times the UK average by the way, the base rear-wheel drive Model Y will have you covered in most of those scenarios. So let's move on to the ins and outs of the car itself. So why shouldn't you just buy another new petrol car and skip this tech-filled EV after all? You know the ins and outs of what to expect from a new petrol car, right? Well, it's probably the biggest question of them all. Why move to an EV that you've never experienced before? Well, cutting the waffle, I personally believe that you should buy this car on merit alone. This vehicle isn't about the environmental factors, it's about the product benefits to you. When buying a car, you want it to be fun and pleasurable to drive. You want crazy light maintenance requirements, because being stuck in a garage is no fun for anyone, no matter what car you own. So it needs to be a reliable powerhouse. And finally, generally, you want something freakishly cheap to run. And this car ticks all those boxes. This is why it is a freak of nature and why I believe a benchmark for comparison. It's a better product than its equivalent petrol car because it requires a hell of a lot less maintenance, super efficient to run, and just as, if not, more fun to drive. And I know the last point is going to be subjective, I get it, but to the average driver, the instant torque, that's not going to falter with age. It's highly addictive and it doesn't seem to fall away with the length of ownership. Don't get me wrong, the 0 to 60 times for the rear-wheel drive Tesla Model Y, it isn't going to be a trendsetter, but just day to day, its electric DNA means 0 to 60 in 6.6 seconds still feels incredibly fast for the everyday usage. The gearless automatic experience means that driving is just seamlessly smooth and the regenerative braking is going to be unrivaled compared to a petrol motor. It's actually addictive to actually rely on that regenerative braking and actually take your foot off the accelerator is just typical behavior anyway when you want to slow down. So just because your day-to-day car will be electric doesn't mean that you actually drive a milk float. Respectively, it is a different car driving experience to a petrol car, but different doesn't necessarily mean bad. And if you're actually doubtful, I'd highly recommend taking a test drive and you'll see exactly what I mean. So Adam, what is the hype about the 2024 Tesla Model Y rear-wheel drive car itself? Well, I cannot stress every Tesla is a Tesla experience, even the base rear-wheel drive Tesla Model Y. But what is the staple Tesla experience? Well, for me, it's truly the new age of driving, something that actually feels like you're actually driving the future. And I already detailed the day-to-day driving changes like regenerative braking and the instant torque gearless experience. But it's the whole package that makes it head and shoulders above everything else, such as the keyless entry. I and my wife consistently use our phones as the key to open the car and to actually start the car. There's no requirement for me to drag around a keyless entry fob to actually achieve that. And we have our phones on us at all times. Even for security, there is pin to start on the screen, and that's just literally a traditional digit sequence on the screen to start the car. So even if your phones are stolen, chances are they're not getting past that pin. So no pin, no drive. Probably why Teslas aren't a stolen car of choice. Then we have Sentry Mode and built-in dash cam, both of which have been paramount on previous insurance claims for me too. And this actually intertwines with the phone app functionality that's feature-packed and works seamlessly. And in 2024, I know other brands have their own versions, but frankly, most are like Microsoft Paint compared to Photoshop. And to finish off a defining feature, it has to be the free over-the-air updates. This does nothing but actually enhance the experience even further, and I'm yet to find someone that actually disagrees that over-the-air updates are a bad thing to have in a car. I mean, you gain new features for your car, such as new music streaming services like Apple Music or Spotify overnight, even stuff like TV streaming services like Netflix or Disney. And that's just a start. So this is your reminder that this is going to get better from here too with those monthly software updates. Before we move on to the conclusion, I just want to briefly compare why I think the rear-wheel drive Model Y will be the choice of many over the longer range Model Y. The way I see it is simple. For an extra £8,000, you gain an extra 48 miles to BOTP, quicker charging speeds, an extra motor, and a faster acceleration, and that's pretty much the difference. Even premium sound is included with the rear-wheel drive trim, unless you're in North America. Now, for some, that purchase is desired or warranted. You need to buy the version that's actually going to be best for you and your needs. I'm fully behind that, and if you do the mileage and you need the added traction from the extra motor, or you just want the quickest charging stop every time, buy the long range. Same can be said about the performance for speed too, but for the average driver, whilst it's overwhelmingly better to pick the best spec version of the Tesla Model Y, being the long range variant, the Tesla Model Y rear-wheel drive offers more than enough mileage for the average driver, and it still has super competitive charging speeds, fast and stable. Even in the rear-wheel drive, the traction control is pretty awesome, to be honest. At its price tag, it's just hard to justify the price jump if the rear-wheel drive Tesla Model Y actually is going to suffice people's needs and requirements already. So to conclude, the Tesla Model Y rear-wheel drive is Tesla's entry-level SUV. And as you've just learned, this delivers that highly anticipated Tesla experience, from range, driving experience to software features, all packed in with this amazing utility and storage like every SUV should do. At current prices, especially in the UK, the value it has to offer is simply just too good not to even get a test drive. Try it out, see if you think the hype is real, and I mean, if it is, then you'll own a car that does not require annual servicing at your garage, and you'll own a car that costs less than 2p per mile when it comes to charging costs alone. It really is a freak of nature, and one that should at the very least have a spot on your shortlist of cars to buy in 2024. So what do you folks think? Do you agree? Is this the benchmark Tesla EV? Is there any other car like it? Let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video, share it with anyone that you think may find it useful. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.